Hello and well. What are you laughing?
You sound like that meme. Hello.
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 Okay. Let me start again.
Round 2.
Hello and welcome to the Just Mates podcast, where we discuss the effects of mental health on men aged 18 to 30. Obviously, what we discuss can relate to all ages and genders, but our objective is to remove the so-called stigma behind men not being able to speak up about their thoughts, emotions, and other related issues.
So yeah, needless to say, this is our first ever podcast where we're going to focus on the impact of lockdown in the UK and its effect on mental health. My name is Sam and I'm joined here today with my mate
Nafees.
Let's go. So 1 in 10 men experience depression and anxiety, and Naf, I believe you said 12.5% of men suffer from at least one mental health disorder, which is quite...
Yeah, at least one common mental health disorder. Yeah. And that could be anything, and something that we might not even consider an issue to us, which could be listed as a mental health disorder. Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, just to give a little background on this, me and Naf kind of started this out of the blue. We both work together currently, and it was kind of just out of the blue, wasn't it, really?
Yeah, well, technically it was you coming to me for a logo, and then we both were on the same page, and then we decided that we should do it together, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think it kind of went in the fact that I had quite a distressing time earlier this year, and I kind of confided in you.
Yeah.
Predominantly out of the workplace, and you helped me, and then I think you had quite a stressful time at some point, and then you confided in me, and then I think I kind of woke up, because when you come out of that bubble of feeling absolutely rubbish, you kind of realise, something needs to be done about that. No one should ever feel how I just felt back.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we both related to each other because we were both going through something, whether it was similar or not, or dissimilar. But the fact that we were both just going through, you could call it a struggle, and we just literally had each other's backs, I guess. So I think that's where, even just generally as friendships go, you tend to become friends on a mutual ground anyway.
Yeah.
So, and obviously we're not claiming to be professionals in any industry of mental health, but we're just here to be a voice, really, aren't we? So
yeah, exactly. It goes back to that original point of just raising awareness, even though that, as you said, we're not experts. We just want to help and just talk about it, because as we both know, and as we just said, talking and even listening in, tuning into understanding these issues is really important. I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah, I think it's what we want to do is not just talk about our problems, but it's to educate people that you can just speak up, and some people might seem fine to you, but in their own environments, when they're alone, they're a completely different person. So we shouldn't really just go off by an initial impression, whereas obviously both of us are quite similar in the fact that we're quite lively people.
Yeah.
And often the people get it misconstrued that because we're lively, we should be happy, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's quite weird that you say that in a way, in a good sense, because I think we're both quite lively and bubbly people in person. You wouldn't really notice as such. I mean, I do have my off days, and we both do, and you can definitely tell. But the majority of the time, we come across as quite normal, I'd say.
Yeah, I think as well, because of that, where we are loud. If we're not, for instance, loud for say a day or so, or like there's a few hours in a day when we're in a work environment or wherever we're in a social environment and we're quiet, people often straight away assume that something's wrong if we are quiet. But most of the time, it's just we're tired of being the voice kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I to put it in different perspective, I think the most dangerous place for me to be is in my own head.
Yeah. And that's why we speak out, because the more we speak, the less the more distracted we are even. Yeah.
And I think going on to the main subject of what we're going to be discussing today, I think lockdown definitely exacerbates how badly we're affected.
And
by what you and me kind of go through, whether it be depression or anxiety, it's made matters, I know for both of us, a lot worse.
Yeah, and that's just during lockdown. Like, as you can imagine, we're just two people. We are 2 out of 2 males suffering from it. So if you can imagine people before or prior to lockdown, people are suffering from things like this anyway. So the strain that it puts on people now being restricted to a certain like environment of like a repetitive like routine of nothing, it's just going to, as I said, put strain on that person anyway. So it's just going to make things worse. And I think, Sam, you found a stat earlier saying that 44% of young adults are now facing or feeling loneliness, especially during lockdown, and it was 18 to 24.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I don't know about you. I think loneliness is quite like a loose term, really.
Yeah, it's subjective, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really subjective in how you define loneliness, because loneliness to me means I can't go out and see mates, whereas loneliness to some other people might be just, being secluded in a room, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Because but as you said, like another form of loneliness, you could be around, and I feel like this sometimes, or a lot of the time, I could be around like 10, 15 people or however many people, multiple people, and still feel like I'm in my own bubble and I've got no one around me.
Yeah, it's weird you say that, and no one else has ever really said that to me.
What's that?
I do kind of feel like that. I mean, especially when I'm in like groups and stuff initially, I mean, even before lockdown, you just kind of get this overwhelming sense of like loneliness.
Yeah, I think it's just like, you know people daydream.
Yeah,
some people daydream and they're not sad or they're not unhappy, they're not thinking about anything, but they're just literally in their own world.
Yeah,
whereas I think for people like us, or just generally like people that feel lonely, as per se, that when we're daydreaming, we are thinking. We're not just loosely just daydreaming. We are genuinely thinking about our own like problems, I guess, and we'll have like 5-10 people around us and still feel like nobody's there to listen. Do you know what I mean? Like there's so many forms of like loneliness that we can delve into. Yeah,
and I think I was just saying this to you before we had the call. I mean, I think the whole premise of lockdown is you're not working, especially if you're on furlough like both of us. If you're not working towards something, if you're not working with people, if you're not doing something productive, then your mind has a tendency to kind of go off and focus on things that wouldn't really have any relevance if you were. If you were working,
Yeah, it's like making a problem out of nothing, really.
Yeah, exactly. You just get lost in your own headspace. And I think me in particular, that's where I fall down quite heavily. If I'm being productive, I'm a completely different person.
Yeah, definitely. Just like how even forgetting mental health, like people listening to music, for instance, they are a completely different person when they listen to music and do work, whereas when they don't have music, they don't work well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it goes back to that point of when you're in your head, you feel like you're the only person with that problem.
Yeah, exactly. Until you then realise that there's a whole bunch of people facing the exact same thing as you.
Yeah.
Which is how we started this, really. Like, we felt alone, and then we literally spoke about our problems, and then we both went off on our own tangents, really, didn't we?
Yeah, it's just a multiplier. Is that the word? Multiplier? Yeah. If you're by yourself, or if you're in a secluded area, or you can't really reach out to people face to face, you're going to feel more in your own head, and then you're going to feel more lonely. I mean, it's just going to happen naturally.
Yeah, but then we should also, I guess, highlight that sometimes loneliness isn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
You do need to recuperate on your own. You do need to self-reflect, and it's important to, like, just anyway, like forms of meditation, or however you feel like you can reflect on your day or certain things you're going through.
Yeah,
loneliness isn't so, like, always like negative.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, mate. To be honest, it's I think the times of like self-reflection can really really help you and understand what's kind of going on in your head. I mean, you don't even need a therapist.
No, you can be your own therapist.
Yeah. I mean, if you go in life, just doing a job, not giving yourself space and time to think,
it would just come back at you in full force at some point. I think, like, the point is that you don't want to become dependent on social activity. You don't want to be dependent on other people being around you for you to be happy. You kind of need to find your own space. So as much as loneliness might be negative to some people, they want to be alone for a while, because that's how they, like, rejuvenate for the day. Like, just even simple things like 5 minutes of normal breathing, or like not being on social media, or having a detox from normal day-to-day things. I think it depends on what type of person you are. I still don't even know if I'm an introvert and extrovert. I really have no idea. Well, nowadays there's so many of them personality tests, aren't there? Like, you can, and it's weird because when you do them and they list certain things, you realise what kind of person you are, and you didn't even know it before. Like, for example, it could tell you that, oh, you're reliant on XYZ, but when you don't have that, you're completely different, and you just completely different person, and you just realise, oh shit, like, that's actually very accurate. I didn't know that. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I think a lot of people are dealing with it okay. I mean, I do have your, off weeks, and God only knows, like, I do have my good weeks, but
well, I think no one is going to be 100% all the time, are they? No one. You're not meant to be happy all the time. Like, there are going to be waves of sadness, or waves of, like, I don't know, just loneliness, and whatever you want to call it. That's normal. That's what we kind of want to highlight. Like, whatever you're going through, you're not alone. Like, there are other people that are facing it. You're not singled out.
Just coming on to something we discussed before the call, and looking at after, do you mind if I just go on to something which is
go for it.
So they say that lockdown is exacerbating existing mental health issues. I mean, for me personally, to get on a personal level, I do struggle with depression and anxiety, and aspects of complex PTSD, which I won't necessarily go into. But for me personally, it has brought out the worst.
Well,
I don't know how it's affected you, but
well, I guess the same, because as are you, and well, I think you are. We're both socialites. We kind of rely on, like, having an activity planned, or like a meeting planned, or just some form of, like, being outside. Whereas now we're confined to our own homes. We're seeing the same people day in, day out. Whether you're happy with that or not, it does put a strain on you, because now you're actually you're left with your own thoughts, and you've actually not got a way out, because we can't go anywhere, we can't see our friends. And this was at the start of lockdown, when it was meant to be supposedly, strict.
When did it start? It was March, wasn't it? It was the end of March.
Yeah. So I guess it was the 23rd of March. That was when the lockdown was officially, I guess, started.
Yeah.
And now we're into June, nearly halfway through, and some people it can take 10 days to feel worse. Some people can be 2 days. Some people it can hit them after a month.
How does it hit you personally? It's like, do you feel like the days are going quicker for you than they would?
I feel like we've hit like 10 different seasons every week. Like it's like every week passes and it's like a new decade's gone.
Yeah. It just doesn't seem real that it started in March and it's June, for goodness sake.
I know, and a lot of us have not been working this whole time.
Yeah,
and obviously had to find different forms of like keeping busy.
Yeah.
So yes, for me, I do kind of hate being alone, and every night I'm now alone. Every morning I'm alone. I guess being an active person, it's kind of helped me that I'm now running, skipping, doing exercise more so at home than I would be at gym.
Yeah.
But that's my form of therapy, as you can say.
I did. Let me just find this. I swear to you're going to hate me for stats, mate, but I do pull them up. So from the Evening Standard, they published a report in May which said exercise contributes to at least 30% towards mental wellness. I said that with a lisp then. Mental wellness. It contributes to at least 30% of mental wellness. I don't know the weighting of that or anything, but from my personal experience, I mean, I was feeling... you know me, I've lost a bit of weight since lockdown started, and in myself, I feel much better because without exercise, I literally don't know where. I
totally get that.
Yeah, and I think being outside, and I hate the word nature because I sound like I'm a philosopher or something. But I think being in nature kind of engages some kind of mindfulness, as it were. Yeah,
definitely.
Expand your mind. It's like a form of therapy. What have you been doing to exercise?
I'm always active. Like, you know me, I go to the gym like literally every other day or every day, and that was my form of therapy prior to this lockdown. But now I'm running nearly every day, doing like 3K, 5K, 6K, 7K here and there. I skip a lot, but the difference with that is when I started, when I did my first run or my second run, I was shocking. Like, as you can imagine, stamina not great, but you work on your personal development. So now that, as you said, like in the start of the podcast, like people want a goal. As men as well, we kind of, I think you said this before, we're problem solvers, or we like to like fix stuff. Yeah. So for me, knowing that a certain time that I'd finished the run, by the end of lockdown, I knew that I'd want to improve that drastically.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I've done this so many times now. I'm exactly like you. I never used to really run as such long distance, but when I go out for runs now, before I'm going on the run, I think, you know what, I'm just going to take it easy. I don't want to get...
But then you challenge yourself, don't you?
And then I get like 2 minutes into it and I'm running like as quick as I can. I'm like, well, I've got to keep this up now.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like I use this app, and you set a distance on it, and then through your headphones it tells you like when you've reached that distance. I can't tell you how many times I've finished my distance and I've just kept going, because my headspace is in that kind of mentality that I'm here now, I might as well just carry on.
What do you probably a really difficult question. I know what it is for me, but what do you think is better for you? Do you find, from like a mental health standpoint, do you think doing cardio and running or weights is
Well,
better?
I think a lot of people. This isn't just men or boys or just us. It's girls as well. Obviously, they love their gym too. We're kind of used to our weights and like having the access to like different capacities and different weighted amounts, whereas now I'm restricted to like literally one weight that I've got. Cardio has been my absolute savior, and I never used to do cardio before, and well, I did, but just limited, and now I'm running as if I'm bloody Mo Farah. So I don't really, I don't know. Like for me, cardio, it's made me realise that other things are important as well.
Yeah, I know it's maybe you're saying along the same lines as me, but I kind of do it sucks. Like I hate it. I hate running. That's why I do it.
Well, yeah, I hated it. So like, it's weird for me because I know running on a treadmill is a lot different to running outside. But when I was in the gym, I'd just about be able to run 5-6 minutes and I'd just get sick of it. Whereas now, I think because you're outside, and as you said before, like the nature side of things, it's just completely different. Like your headspace is not just looking at a screen on the treadmill. You can just run forever. Like if I was just to be running like on a normal pace, I could keep going for hours.
I think with me as well, you can tell me if I get massive ego boost like during and after my run.
Yeah.
Your body gets filled with endorphins anyway. So like if you think about it from that point of view, I mean you're gonna feel good anyway. But I think when I run, I just feel like when I run past people that are walking, and I'm like, I'm better than you.
Yeah. You kind of feel like Dash from Incredibles. Like bye. I think as well. Like now we've kind of spoken about exercise. There are people, and obviously specifically men who don't exercise anyway, or don't regularly go out on like runs or walks or even to the gym prior to lockdown. And it's important to, I think, even just if we're making suggestions as people, as friends, that exercises, yes, it's great, and that's our form of therapy, personal to us. A lot of people who aren't active, they don't want to do that. They don't want to run. They don't want to lift weights. They don't want to use resistance bands or skip. I think there are other forms of inverted commas therapy for people. So like obviously we haven't mentioned before, but I'm a graphic designer, and for me, doing like design work, little commissions here and there, that is another form of therapy for me. So it's not specifically just pinpointed to running outside or being outside.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
What else would you be doing if you weren't exercising as a form of therapy?
Well, initially for me, as like a hobby, you know me, I've taken up a bit of training in my own time, and I still currently am, to kind of develop myself. So when I come out the other end, I'm more qualified and I feel more confident in doing my job.
Just for the listeners, I guess, by training, what do you mean?
Oh yeah, sorry mate. Yeah, so I'm obviously work with NAF, and I work on the client side of things and work on advertising. Yeah. So when I say training, I'm kind of looking at how to use the different advertising platforms more effectively. So I'm talking about Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, that side of things, but also looking at how to manage bidding on ads, Google ads, looking at analytics and data. I've got a couple of friends that are working in marketing as well. They kind of had a long conversation the other day. My friend who works, I can't remember this platform he uses, completely irrelevant, but yeah, you get the kind of idea of what I'm.
So that's great you've mentioned that, because I think what's important is you would, but it would have taken you longer prior to lockdown. You wouldn't really have done them things, would you? The training, or you would have this kind of pushed you to do it.
Yeah,
would you say?
I mean, yeah. No, exactly. I mean, when you're working, you don't really have the time to do it, and then when you finish work, you're like, oh, I can't be bothered now.
Yeah, definitely.
Whereas now it's, I kind of feel guilty if I don't take advantage of the time to do it.
On reflection of that, it is, by the way, okay to not do anything. It is genuinely normal and fine to just sit there and mong out and take time to just literally do nothing, or just sit on social media, whether you find that therapeutic or whether you find that as a time pass. I think
I think it should work as a reward based system.
Yes, definitely. And as we like to keep busy, there are some people out there that don't care so much for it, and the way they keep happy is by not doing anything. And it's important that we don't negate the fact that if you aren't doing anything, that doesn't mean you're unsuccessful. It doesn't mean that you're not achieving anything. Everyone's goals are different. So I could do 5k and feel happy, whereas somebody could do 2k and feel just the same amount of happiness, because that's their goal and that was my goal.
Yeah, the key word for me is moderation.
Yes, definitely.
I mean, to put it from like a personal point of view, I mean, when we first got furloughed in March, I mean, up to the point I don't know how many certificates I've got now from this, but I've probably got about just over 10. And I did 80% of those I did in the first 2 or 3 weeks. And then after that, I started to get sick of training. And then I kind of sacked it off for about a month. And then it ended up playing video games for a month, and then I got kind of sick of that. So really, you just got to have it perfectly balanced and kind of like have a schedule. I mean, from my point of view, I kind of said, oh, all right, you know what? I'm going to do 3 or 4 hours of training, and then I'm going to do 1 or 2 hours at Xbox, instead of just going, oh, right, okay.
By the way, PS4 is better.
Yeah. Well, no, but... We'll say that for a separate discussion.
Anyway, I get you, and that's your personal achievement. That was your goal, and that's now your routine. But I totally get that, and everyone's goals are different. So even just getting out of bed for some people could be a massive achievement for someone who's going through a lot. Like that is their achievement. Oh wow, I've actually got up and done something today. That could literally be equivalent to somebody who's done something excessive, like run a marathon. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, they go hand in hand, really. Everyone's views are different.
Well, I'll tell you what really works for me. Personally, wake up in the morning, just making your bed. Yeah,
no, do you know, I do that every single day. I can't leave the room without doing it.
Yeah, I think just that in itself, I don't know if this relates to what they're taught in the forces. Yes, sir! But I know my mates that are in the army, they, before they get up every morning, their room is immaculate.
Yeah, it's just headspace, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
I think as well, while we're talking, sorry to cut you in there, but it's important that we highlight the fact that we're just two guys talking, and a lot of guys don't feel like they can or do talk to their mates like this. Like we're obviously this is for the podcast. Obviously we're just mates, so but we do talk on a normal basis. Like this is kind of a normal conversation to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was kind of the point, is that we kind of talk about this stuff anyway, almost on like a daily basis. So why not put it out there? And you know, it doesn't have to be just us having the conversation.
No.
There could be other people joining in, and you know that's what we want.
Yeah, we want people to relate to us. I think there might be some things that we've mentioned today that people are like, oh shit, like I do that as well, like. Or like, oh wow, I can do that. I can do running, so let me try and do that. Even if one person is affected in a positive way from listening to this, I think we've achieved some sort of goal there.
Yeah, exactly. Just jumping on to another point now. Do you? I don't know if you do this, but do you meditate at all?
So there's so many like
different types of meditation, but like, do you do any form of meditation?
Well, I'm a Muslim, so obviously I do pray a lot. And obviously we have to pray 5 times a day, and I do that as and when I can. So I guess to me that is a form of meditation.
I knew people you were going to say that, because to me meditation is such a on a loose term.
It is. Even when we started the podcast, I said about breathing properly, or like taking time out to like 5 minutes of slow breathing. That is meditation.
Yeah.
Or skipping, that could be someone's meditation. Or
have you
I don't know, going through their pictures on their phone, that is another form of meditation to some.
Yeah. I found something that kind of I can never ever bring myself to do it, because I don't know why. I think it's just such a shock to your system. I don't know if I've spoken to you about it before, but I think I put it in the work chat like maybe 6 months ago, but there's this thing called the Wim Hof breathing technique.
Okay, yeah.
It's basically you just lay down. I think you take 30 really deep, quick breaths in, and then you hold your breath for like 2 minutes, and you can feel your whole body rushing. It's basically just getting your...
It's just a shock, isn't it?
You're just getting high in your own supply. And like, I find after I've done that, I mean, when I do it, because you sound like an absolute nutcase when you're lying down going... When you get your own space to do it, that is something which really helps. I mean, I only do it if I'm feeling, incredibly depressed and my mind is going absolutely nuts. It really does help. And it takes maybe about 10 minutes to do a whole session. So for listeners out there, if you really are going through something and your mind can't come off of anything and you're getting intrusive thoughts, that is a quick go-to solution. Just make sure you're not in a room full of people.
Well, I think important to mention there is, Sam, that you don't need any equipment for that. You don't need any other resources. That's just you and yourself.
Yeah, and tell you what, actually, when we put this on YouTube, I'll put the link in there for what it actually is. And Naf, you can give it a quick go, and I'll tell you, mate.
It seems interesting, because I think in that whole process, you're not going to be thinking about anything else. You're going to be thinking about your 30 deep breaths or your 2 minutes of like silence. I think that's important. Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah,
it raises your. I think it raises your adrenaline levels or something. So there is science behind it. I don't really know. I'll have to maybe save it for another time. I don't want to go into it too much, but really that in itself is just something which is like, why is this not taught?
Yeah, no, exactly. And that is another form of therapy that somebody listening, even if it's one person, if they try that and it helps, like with that's literally amazing then. Yeah,
exactly.
By the way, while we're talking, obviously wherever this is published or wherever you're listening from, whether it be YouTube, Spotify, if we ever get on there, or you know what I mean, if you do want to be a part of this conversation, literally drop us a message or use the hashtag JustMatesPod on Twitter and let us know your thoughts, and we can try and get you on the call.
Yeah, I think in the long term, we discussed this, we really do want people to come on.
Yeah, it's not just about you and I. It's not about obviously we're talking about our personal problems because we want people to relate to things that we might be going through. But we also want you to tell us things that we don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, Just Mates Pod is the hashtag that we will be using throughout, whether it be on Instagram or Twitter. We will be looking through the responses on there.
Yeah, exactly. Just jumping back into the topic of lockdown. So, Naf, how many people are you living with at the moment? It's just your mum? Because I'm living with several other people. Do you think? I don't know how.
Yeah, I know what you're going to say. Yeah, I'm just with my mum. that is another strain on people, because you're now secluded, aren't you? You're now confined to seeing the same few people, whether it be your siblings and your parents, or whether it just be your parents or whoever it is in your house. Due to lockdown, you can't see anyone else, or you're not able to spend hours with other people. That is another issue for some people, because some people rely on seeing different faces.
Yeah, I to me personally, I mean, I didn't see a face outside this household for I don't know how long, but it felt like eternity.
Yeah,
and then obviously you can do within a fair distance. What's the distance now? Is it 2
2 meters, and I think now, well, we are recording in June, so some of the rules have changed, but we can meet up to like 5 to 6 people outside the house as long as you remain 2 meters apart from each other, which is actually such a weight lifted on so many people's shoulders, because
an absolute weight lift,
because you're not conformed to them two faces that you see every day.
Yeah, I encourage everyone to at least go and see one person, even if it's for 10, 15 minutes. It makes such a difference.
No, it does. It really helps. And I think, going back to the point of where we run and stuff, on them runs, as you said, you run past people and people are walking. Even just that random face that you see can make a difference, because you realise that you're not alone in this, and like there are other people out there, and we've got to think of this as a temporary phase, lockdown.
Yeah. Well, without sounding cliche, it is pain. It's temporary.
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
Yeah. I was going back to the point of, tidying your room and keeping that clean and keeping your headspace clean. I think routine, I mean, you don't need to have it, but routine for me, waking up the same time every day and having a tight...
Yeah, I think this is making me, well, I knew anyway, but we are so similar, because I've now made a routine of myself. Like, I will get up at a certain time and I will make sure I have breakfast at the same time every day. I'll have lunch at the same time every day. I'll go for a walk every day, like the same time. I think having that routine where work is taken away, your now normal life becomes a routine.
Yeah, exactly. You said to me, I mean, and I'm guilty of this as well, that your sleep schedule at the start was quite off.
Oh, yeah. And it still is. But I still will wake up at the same time every day, or near enough the same time.
Are you getting really, like, vivid dreams?
Do you know what? Well, it's weird you say that, because I rarely dream. But when I do dream, They are so random. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen Rick and Morty, but I feel like it's one of them episodes in my head at night. But, like... randomly, I will dream of the most like random, vivid stuff. I just don't know where it comes from.
Yeah, and I find I get so shook from it. I either wake up and it's like a cold sweat. I don't know what. I mean, I used to get vivid dreams when I'm stressed. Stress is a trigger for vivid dreams. Yeah. And obviously that's going to be worse with the current situation. But now it's just like I wake up and I feel like I was just in a completely different world. It takes me literally like 5 minutes to be like, right, where the hell am I?
It's really odd, because I remember you saying before that you've had these kind of like episodes, I guess you can call them.
Yeah. And now I think it's just been so intensified over the past 2 months. It's just, I mean, I'm getting used to it, but it's like... I can't help but think that everybody is experiencing vivid dreams to some extent. Because the people I've spoken to are saying that I'm getting like really messed up dreams and stuff. I don't know the science behind it.
Well, do you know what? Even if we go off our own, like, what do you call it, a diagnosis, I think it could be the fact that we are like restrained at home or whatever. We are now looking for an out. So in our minds, we're now thinking of the most random things because we can't do certain things. So maybe that's just a reflection of being stuck indoors, that we're now thinking of the most vivid stuff in our dreams, in our sleep state.
So I'm going to do my own pull it up.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Stress and anxiety can cause vivid dreams, or so I'm correct in that sense. But yeah, dreams are getting really weird at the moment. Like really
just don't mention any of your certain kind of dreams.
No, you weren't in the one.
Oh, okay. It's just the one last week, yeah.
Yeah.
God, these interracial dreams are getting a bit much.
Yeah, I think that's what people need to stop. I need to stop doing that now. My screen time has gone up massively. I think I'm on like 7 hours on average a day.
I think this goes back to making your bed in the morning. A lot of people just go on their phone in the mornings. A lot of people, that is your first point of call in the day. And I think that I do it. I'm guilty of it. And you probably are too. The first thing you see is your phone. I think
needless to say, don't Google any symptoms or anything. Just don't Google
just like
stuff.
you just said, you're dreaming and you wake up in in hysterics. Don't Google what does swimming on a mountain with red lava mean, because you really will get multiple responses, and then it'll put thoughts in your head that you didn't need.
It'd be like I've dreamt of, I don't know, cornflakes and without milk, and it'd be like, you're gonna die in 7 days.
What the hell?
All that means, like, you've suddenly got a bloody illness that you didn't know about just because you dreamt of cornflakes. Yeah, it's. I think it's the typical like mum or dad thing to do, isn't it? Like, I've got a cold. Let me Google it. So you put on Google what to do when you have a runny nose, and then the first link on Google is, please go to a doctor. You may have gonorrhea.
You stupid.
Yeah, and you can't go to the doctor because everyone's in bloody
Exactly.
lockdown, and then you can't get the medication for it, and you're dead in a couple of days.
Sorry, Google. I think that again. There's so many things we can go into, but I think the important thing that we need to highlight again is you can talk. You can speak about your problems, and that, as I said before, and I'll keep saying again and again, there are so many things that Sam and I have mentioned, or that we've mentioned, that people can relate to. There must be someone out there having vivid dreams too and thinking the exact same thing as you. Yeah,
I think humour plays quite heavily into it. I mean, just even having one laugh a day, like even in my call with you, mate. Just make yourself
I am the funniest person I know, so.
Yeah, you keep thinking that, mate.
Okay, Sam.
So yeah, even this really does help. I mean, I don't know about you. I'm watching a lot of stand-up comedy.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, no, me too. You see little clips here and there, and then even so, obviously they do say comedy is just a truth, isn't it? They're all things that are true, just being told in a humorous way, and that's how people relate to things, like like Michael McIntyre's sketches and stuff like that. Lee Evans, they talk about real life scenarios, and you just relate to it, don't you? Just like
I think that's something that people really don't talk about, is that, and I've kind of thought this for a long time. You are right, like I mean, it depends on the comedian and what they do, but so comedians are on such a personal level that, to me, if I can relate to the comedian, if you think about a comedian when he's up there and talking, he's talking to you on kind of a personal level, so you can. And I think that in itself is really helpful if you can find a comedian which you associate your values and, I don't know, and how far you want to go with dark humour, as it were. I can really help.
Definitely, definitely, because there are some comedians out there that you listen to and you realise, oh shit, like you're right, kind of thing. Like, I've been through this as well, and that comedian might not have meant it in a mental health kind of capacity, but you've taken it differently.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've watched, I mean, this is kind of different from stand-up, but he is a stand-up comedian anyway, but if you watch Afterlife...
No,
but
I've seen the adverts and stuff, and I think you love it, don't you?
Yeah, it's really good. And what he does is he kind of takes... the weird way he twists like a really bad situation. Basically, his wife died of cancer. And he turns
spoiler alert.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not a spoiler. That is the whole concept of the series. Yeah. No, and he kind of doesn't really turn like a positive light on it. He just kind of... It's the only show which has made me like laugh and cry. But the good thing about Ricky, he just kind of... I mean, you can love or hate Ricky. He really is.
Well, just for the listeners, it's Ricky Gervais's show, isn't it?
Yeah, apologies. Yeah, he just making light of a bad situation is what he does. What really
we should all be doing right now during lockdown.
Yeah, you wait for the stand-up comedy after.
Oh yeah, the amount of jokes that we're gonna hear.
Yeah,
I think it's gonna be mental.
Yeah, it's gonna be really good. Can you just wait 2 seconds, mate? Where were we? Stand-up comedy. Yeah. Turning negative into positive, making a bad situation into a good situation, you know. Just take it as it comes. I mean, you can use this time to turn yourself into an absolute beast in any aspect.
As we keep mentioning exercise, that's just our form of therapy. But there's so many different activities, like I've seen on a timeline, like Twitter and Instagram and stuff. People are taking up like piano and any kind of musical instrument, or just anything really that you find peace in.
Yeah. I think eating.
Actually... like I said, you asked about routine. I make sure that after every meal I do some form of like, not exercise but movement. So like after breakfast, I'll always, it sounds silly, but I'll always stretch, and then I'll have lunch, and I'll literally every single day I will go for a walk after lunch, and then I'll have dinner. I'll wait a while, and then I go for a run or skip or whatever. I think it's just routine, to making your own routine, isn't it?
Yeah. I think for me, one of my biggest worries, apart from, will I have a job at the end of this, and
that is
loads of people can...
That is a topic for another podcast, though, but yeah.
You're fired.
Yeah, it's to me, and then worried about, financial constraints, and I mean, there's so many different factors. I mean, I don't have a mortgage. I can't understand how people are feeling if they've got a mortgage, but paying rent in itself is difficult. But I think really how you're going to tackle that, and thinking about this, like, whatever happens,
like, we'll come out of this and we cannot change what's happened. We can't change what we've been through. You've literally just got to power through. And as easy as it is to say, we are all on the same boat, in a sense. Like, we've all gone through this together, and that's the important thing. Like, we're not alone. And that's the important thing about talking to people. You're not alone in what you're doing. Everyone is going through it at the same time as you, whether it be different ways they're going through it. We're all on the same page, and we'll come out of this together. And I do feel like the sense of coming together and the community coming together and stuff, like, people are going to come out like more, I think, better, in a sense.
Yeah. Just to jump in on that, Naf, I mean, to me, this has made this whole experience, I mean, before lockdown, I mean, to give you like an example, if my mates invited me out to go for, like a quick pint or something, or, just to meet up, I'd be a little bit reluctant, because I think I just want my own time. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but now it's making me not take normal life for granted, which admittedly I was doing at times. So I think
No, you're right, because
exactly.
I think at the start of this, probably a lot of us were thinking this, and probably still are, but to an extent. The first thing that we really got taken away from us were haircuts, going out for food, just general things like taken away as a normal like privilege. When it first started lockdown, I was thinking, I can't wait to go out and get a haircut and grab go and sit in a restaurant. But now it's completely different. My mentality of first thing I'm going to do is go and see friends. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you realise what's important.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't know as such for myself, but I've been speaking to people that I haven't really spoken to in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Just reaching out to me from like university and old school friends and stuff, and I think this just gives time to people to make amends and reflect.
Yeah, self-reflection is 100% important. Whether it's lockdown or not, you should be doing that. I think even every day you should self-reflect on whether it's at the start of the day or the end of the day, whatever you find comfortable, you reflect on what you're doing and what's going on in your life. Yeah,
definitely.
Well, definitely. It's been a good episode. I think we should probably wrap this up now. I think people are going to get bored of our voices.
Shut up!
Yes, definitely. Again, I do want to plug the hashtag JustMatesPod, pod as in POD. And we are Just Mates. So, yeah, should we wrap this up?
Yeah, and obviously if you've got any questions, depending on where we put this, leave them in the comment section or on Twitter, and we're happy to answer that whenever.
It can be about lockdown. It can be what you want us to be, what you want our next episode to be, what topics you want to cover. It literally can vary from anything. But the important thing is that we are talking. We've started a conversation, and we want this to continue. We want people to be heard.
Yeah, and stay off the news. Stay off Twitter. Just
I think that's another thing is daily you've got on BBC One or ITV coronavirus news, coronavirus time. Let's not forget there are other things going on in the world. There are positive things still happening, records being broken, new things happening. We just got to remember there's more to world than the coronavirus. As much of a struggle it is, as painful as it is, we've got to be positive.
Yeah, I like that positive spin on it. You've got to think when you know that how social media algorithms work is what people are talking about, and the majority of what people are talking about are negative. So don't really think that everything is negative, because it's really not. And the news, the
media shows you what they want to show you. You can make your own. You can make your own light at the end of the tunnel. At the end of the day.
Yeah. Just don't draw any conclusions, and there's always a balanced argument. Yes, there's negative things happening. There's always negative things happening. Before this, there was almost sort of war. Was it Iran in America? And look at that. And
whatever happens, things will settle. I think.
Yeah. Let's end it on that, mate. Like you've said, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and we'll be back. And if you want to talk to us and come on the podcast, then we'll
definitely
be happy to do that. And,
well, I've been Nafees, and I'm here with
the Muffin Man,
Samuel. So I guess until next time, we're Just Mates, and I'll see you later.
Bye. See you later.